Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to welcome you all today. Today, we're going to explore a fascinating piece of literature titled The Portrait of a Lady by Khushwant Singh. On this first slide, you see the title and author. It's the starting point of our journey into this compelling story. Over the course of this presentation, we'll delve into the themes, characters, and the cultural context of the story. But for now, let's get started and see what makes this work so intriguing. Let's take a moment to look at the learning outcomes for this session. First, students will work on upgrading their language skills. This includes listening carefully and reflecting on what they hear, which helps them communicate effectively through both speech and writing. It's about becoming more thoughtful and expressive in their language use. Second, students will learn to express their opinions and views independently, fostering confidence and critical thinking. They will also develop their ability to write, collect, and appreciate narratives, which enhances their storytelling skills and understanding of different perspectives. Third, they'll learn how to prepare notes while reading, a useful skill that helps in better comprehension and retention of information. Moving beyond language, we also focus on maintaining emotional balance in our relationships with family members. Being kind, understanding, and respectful, especially towards older family members, is crucial for harmonious living. Additionally, we want to sensitize ourselves towards the needs of animals and birds. Creating a nurturing and caring environment for them is an important part of building empathy and kindness. All these points tie together in our overall goal: to develop well-rounded individuals who communicate effectively, nurture respectful relationships, and show compassion towards all living beings. Let's talk about the writer behind this remarkable work. He was a famous figure in English literature, known for his insightful and impactful writing. He was born in 1915 in Hadali, which is now part of Pakistan. His educational journey took him through some prestigious institutions, including the Government College in Lahore, and later at King's College, Cambridge University, as well as the Inner Temple in London. Before turning fully to writing, he practiced law for several years at the Lahore High Court, gaining valuable experience and perspective. But his influence extended beyond law. He was also a prominent editor. He was the founding editor of the magazine Yajana from 1951 to 1953, and later, he was the editor of the Illustrated Weekly of India during 1979-80. In addition, he served as the chief editor of a publication based in New Delhi in 1979-80, and from 1980 to 1983, he was the editor of the Hindustan Times. Many of us might remember his popular Saturday column, titled "With Malice Towards One and All," which appeared in the Hindustan Times. This column was one of the most read and appreciated of its time. All of these achievements reflect his deep engagement with journalism, law, and literature, and help us understand the multifaceted personality behind the words we are exploring today. Let's delve into some key aspects of his beliefs and life. He was a self-proclaimed agnostic, which means he didn't claim to know whether or not God exists. He was also against organized religion, often viewing it as something that can be restrictive or dogmatic. Interestingly, he seemed inclined towards atheism, which is the disbelief in God. He famously stated, "One can be a saintly person without believing in God and a detestable villain believing in him." This highlights his view that morality and virtue aren't necessarily tied to religious belief. In his own words, he created a personalized religion where he declared, "There is no God." He also rejected concepts like rebirth, reincarnation, the day of judgment, heaven, or hell. He accepted the finality of death, meaning he believed that when you're gone, that's truly the end. He lived a long life, passing away at the age of 99 due to natural causes on March 20, 2014, at his residence in Delhi. Connecting this to our overall theme, his perspective challenges traditional beliefs and emphasizes a rational, human-centered approach to life and morality. His life and beliefs remind us that personal philosophy can be independent of religious institutions, yet still deeply meaningful. Now let's delve into the title of this slide, The Portrait of a Lady. A lady in this context refers to a woman of good social position, someone respected and recognized in her community. The word portrait is quite interesting. It can be a painting, a drawing, a photograph, or even an engraving. But what's common is that it depicts only the face, or sometimes the head and shoulders, capturing the essence of a person. In our case, the portrait we're talking about is of Khushwant Singh's grandmother. This particular portrait is simple, yet it's very exemplary. It represents more than just her appearance. It reflects her character and dignity. It's a very representative portrait of an old woman, showing her as she truly was, plain, honest, and full of life. This slide helps us understand how a portrait can serve as a window into a person's life and personality, connecting to the broader theme of how we perceive and depict individuals through art and words. Let's talk about our love for grandmothers. What is it that makes grandmothers so special? Well, their lives are truly worth recording because they hold so many stories and experiences that can inspire and teach us. Do they create the stories that are worth sharing? Absolutely. They often have a wealth of knowledge and memories that can make any story rich and meaningful. And yes, they definitely interest readers. People of all ages are eager to hear about their wisdom, their love, and their journeys. Grandmothers are very dear to all of us. They are loved and adored even more than parents in many cases because of the unique bond they share with us. They embody a kind of warmth, care, and tradition that resonates deeply. So when we think about storytelling, capturing a grandmother's life and stories is not just interesting, it's essential. It adds depth to our understanding of family, history, and love. And here, we see a representative image that reinforces this idea, highlighting just how important and cherished grandmothers are in our lives and stories. Khushwant Singh's grandmother. My grandmother, like everybody's grandmother, was an old woman. You see, this simple statement immediately evokes a sense of familiarity and warmth. It reminds us that grandmothers, no matter where they come from, share certain universal qualities: wisdom, kindness, and a touch of old-world charm. In Singh's description, she's portrayed as an ordinary, relatable figure, someone who has experienced a lifetime of stories and lessons. This image helps us connect to the broader theme of appreciating our roots, our elders, and the simple, yet profound, wisdom they carry. And through this, Singh invites us to reflect on the importance of respecting and valuing the older generations in our lives. Let's take a closer look at what the grandmother looks like. Her face is marked by a crisscross pattern of wrinkles, each line telling a story of a life well lived. You can see her back is bent, a sign of years of experience and perhaps the weight of her memories. Her lips are often moving in prayer, a quiet testament to her faith and devotion. She's telling the beads of a rosary, each bead a symbol of her spiritual practice. Behind her, we see a winter landscape in the mountains, an expanse of pure white serenity that echoes the calmness and purity she embodies. This image beautifully represents the dignity and resilience of two Punjabi elders, reminding us of the strength and serenity that come with age and tradition. Growing up in the village, I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, who was my constant companion during my childhood. Her presence was very comforting and played a big role in shaping who I am today. She prepared me for school in many ways, taking me along and making sure I was ready to learn. I remember walking with her to the village school, which was attached to the temple, such a simple yet meaningful place. There, I learned the alphabet and the prayers we sang every morning, which became a foundational part of my early education. I also recall how my grandmother would feed the village dogs with chapatis, showing her love and kindness not just to me, but to everyone around. These childhood experiences, shared with my grandmother and the village community, laid the groundwork for my values and my love for learning, which are central themes in my life story. Moving to the city marked a real turning point in our relationship. It was a significant change, stepping into a new environment that brought both excitement and challenges. I started going to a motor bus to school, which was a different experience compared to before. The school itself was an English medium one, reflecting a shift towards a more modern, global outlook. Initially, my grandmother was full of enthusiasm about these changes. I remember how she would often feed the sparrows in the courtyard of our city house, showing her simple yet deep affection for small joys. At the same time, I felt a strong dislike for the idea of education without religion, which was a part of my traditional beliefs. There were also prejudices I held about music lessons, thinking they might not fit into my rigid view of education. Over time, I experienced a sense of resignation, accepting that life was changing, whether I liked it or not. This silent acceptance was my way of coping with the new reality. And if you look in the background, you can see a modern-day school bus, a symbol of how far we've come from those early days. It's a visual reminder of the ongoing journey of adaptation and growth that continues in our lives. When I think back to those university days, I realize how the link of friendship I once had was suddenly snapped. It was a turning point that led me to seek my own space, a room of my own where I could reflect and grow. Meanwhile, my grandmother accepted her seclusion with quiet resignation. She found peace in her solitude, and that acceptance became a defining part of her character. Her house, surprisingly, became the happiest place for her. It was filled with simple joys, like feeding the sparrows in the courtyard. Watching those tiny birds flutter around was a daily delight for her. And oh, the chaos they created, chirping and chirruping in a veritable bedlam of sound. It was lively and spontaneous, like a little symphony of nature. She would often give the sparrows frivolous rebukes, half teasing, half loving, which added a charming layer to her relationship with them. You see, these moments really highlight how she found joy in the small things, and how her acceptance of her solitude allowed her to connect deeply with nature. This scene, with the image of an old woman surrounded by sparrows, captures that gentle, loving spirit perfectly. Today, I want to talk about a significant moment in Khushwant Singh's life, the time he went abroad for his studies. It was a big step for him, filled with mixed emotions. As he prepared to leave, there was a farewell at the railway station, a poignant moment that marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Now, what's interesting is how his grandmother reacted. She was quite unsentimental, not the type to show overt emotions, but her actions spoke volumes. Khushwant himself was understandably anxious. He had fears about leaving his grandmother behind. He worried about how she would cope without him, which shows the deep bond they shared. During the farewell, his grandmother was lost in prayer, perhaps praying for his safety and success. Despite her usual demeanor, she still expressed her love in her own quiet way. And then there was that tender moment, a kiss on the forehead. This simple gesture was not just a sign of affection, but also perhaps the last physical contact between them before he left. This scene captures the blend of love, worry, and the emotional complexity of saying goodbye to someone so dear. It highlights how, even in their simplicity, such moments are rich with meaning and connect to the overall theme of emotional bonds and parting ways. And the image here, something representative, serves as a reminder of those fleeting yet unforgettable moments of love and farewell. When I returned from England, I was warmly received by my grandmother at the railway station. Her welcome was kind, but I noticed she was hardly any different in her usual demeanor. That evening, as was our routine, I spent time feeding the birds, finding comfort in this simple act. However, that evening was unusual because something changed in our routine. Women from the neighborhood gathered together, creating a sense of community and shared joy. They sang a song celebrating the homecoming of the warriors, a moment of pride and unity for everyone. Interestingly, for the first time, their prayers were temporarily ignored, highlighting a shift in the usual order or perhaps the significance of the celebration. This scene of women gathering to sing and celebrate is a powerful image, representing not just the return of loved ones, but also the strength and resilience of our community. It ties into the overall theme of the presentation, illustrating how moments of joy and unity can emerge even amidst change and uncertainty. Now let's move to a poignant moment in our story, the death of a grand old lady. The day after she fell ill, her condition worsened and her family was naturally worried. The doctor came and reassured them, offering comfort with his words. However, the grandmother, in her wisdom, sensed that her time was near. She predicted her own death, which was a remarkable moment of clarity and acceptance. She then made a heartfelt request to be left alone so she could offer her prayers peacefully. Her family, concerned and perhaps anxious, objected, wanting to stay close. But she insisted, and as she prayed, she peacefully breathed her last. This moment beautifully highlights her spiritual strength and the importance of inner peace at life's end, tying back to the themes of faith, acceptance, and the serenity that can come with a profound spiritual connection. Let's reflect on this poignant moment, the mourning of the sparrows. As you see, the grandmother is covered with a red shroud and laid on the ground, symbolizing the finality of death. Despite her passing, the sparrows continue to visit the house as usual, in the thousands, highlighting their persistent connection to her. However, there's an unusual silence that falls over the scene, an absence of their usual chirping, which feels almost like a silent mourning. Kushwant's mother offers them bread, a gesture of compassion and remembrance, but surprisingly, the sparrows do not take any food. This signifies their deep grief and perhaps their understanding of the loss. Soon, the grandmother's body is carried off for cremation, marking the final farewell. As the ceremony concludes, the sparrows leave the house in silence, their departure echoing the somber mood. The breadcrumbs that were offered are then swept into the dustbin, symbolizing the end of that moment of mourning and the return to normalcy. This scene encapsulates themes of loss, connection, and the silent ways in which nature responds to human grief, reminding us of the profound bond between life and death. Here we see a simple but adorable grandmother. She's a lady with no formal education, which tells us she hasn't had the opportunity for advanced schooling, but that doesn't define her warmth or character. She's unimposing, kind, and caring, always putting others before herself. She's not a preacher or a religious leader, but she's deeply orthodox and religious in her own way. There are some prejudices about music lessons, perhaps thinking they're not necessary or suitable, but she firmly believes in religious education as a way to nurture the soul. She's never a liability. Instead, she's a source of comfort and stability. She cares for animals, like dogs and sparrows, showing her gentle, compassionate nature. Her life is simple, with minimal needs, focused on what truly matters: family, faith, and kindness. She's a lady of few words, but her actions speak volumes. This picture perfectly captures her essence: simple, caring, and rooted in her values. It's a reminder that strength and virtue often come from the most unassuming places. Thank you for taking the time to look at the acknowledgments slide. I want to start by mentioning that the images included in this presentation were sourced from various websites, and they serve as visual representations to complement the content. The only exception is the 2 images of Kushwant Singh, which are original. I also want to express my sincere gratitude to NVS RO Hyderabad for trusting me with the responsibility of creating this e-content. Their support and guidance have been invaluable, and I've learned a few new things along the way, which I truly appreciate. This whole process highlights the importance of collaboration and support in developing quality educational resources. So, in essence, this slide is about giving credit where it's due and acknowledging the contributions that helped bring this presentation together effectively. Thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here today. Throughout this presentation, we've covered some important concepts that I hope you'll find useful. Remember, the key points are about understanding the core ideas, applying them effectively, and connecting everything back to our overall theme of growth and innovation. It's been great sharing this information with you, and I encourage you to think about how you can implement these ideas in your own work. Thanks again for your attention and engagement. I look forward to seeing how you use these insights moving forward.